to Mind Your Business, where leaders sharpen their thinking and move forward with clarity and intention. In the past episodes, we talked about a variety of themes, and in each one of those episodes, the word space kept coming up. And that's what today's episode is all about. We're going to talk about space. It's something rarely spoken about, but it really is absolutely essential. Space, we're not talking office space, not calendar space. I'm talking about mental space, your emotional space, and the decision space. Because without that space, you don't have clarity. And without clarity, you don't have any power. Now, why does space matter? Most leaders aren't lacking intelligence. They're lacking space, space to think, space to reflect, space between stimulus and response. When there is no space, there's only reaction. And reaction leads to emotional decisions, defensive leadership, short-term thinking, and yes, even burnout. Space is what allows you to pause, and in that pause changes everything between what happens and how you respond. There is a moment, and that moment is space, and inside there is your leadership. Now, let's talk about space and stillness. Stillness is how space is created. When you stop filling every second with noise and distraction and input, you begin to hear your own thinking. Most leaders don't lack intuition, they lack silence. And a crowded mind cannot create. It can only survive. Space moves from survival to strategy. Now, how does space unlock your imagination and intuition and creativity? Here's where it really gets powerful. When you create space, something unexpected happens. Your imagination wakes up. Your intuition becomes audible. Your creativity returns. Imagination does not thrive in urgency, does not grow in constant pressure. It needs openness. It needs breathing room. Most breakthrough ideas don't come during chaos. They come after the chaos settles. They come in the shower, or even on a walk, or even a quiet drive home. And why is that? Because in space, it allows the mind to connect the dots, where urgency keeps everything separated. Intuition is similar. It doesn't shout, it whispers. But if your mind is crowded with deadlines and notifications and mental arguments, ego-driven narratives you won't hear, space clears that interference. And when interference clears, leaders begin to sense the right direction instead of forcing it. Creativity is not about being artistic. It's about seeing possibilities others don't see. That only happens when the mind isn't compressed. When leaders create space, they stop reacting to what is and begin imagining what could be. This is the difference between managing and leading. Managers respond to reality. Leaders shape it. And shaping reality requires imagination. And imagination requires the space to do it. Now, how does space affect your ego? Your ego hates space because in that space, ego loses all control. Ego thrives in urgency, in pressure, in constant motion, and it whispers, react now, defend yourself, prove something. But when you create that space, you interrupt that voice. Space allows awareness, and awareness gives you choice. Instead of, I need to respond right now, you really should ask yourself, what is actually required here? That question only exists when you have space. Now, how does grace and space work together? Grace is impossible without space. If you make a mistake and immediately judge yourself, there is no room for learning. But if you create that space, you can say, hey, that didn't work. What's the lesson here? Space separates identity from outcome. Without space, you replay. With space, you reframe. And reframing is how growth happens. Now, what does space do in the business world? In business, space is actually a competitive advantage. Most people move fast. Few move thoughtfully. High-level leaders pause, not because they're slow, but because they want to be precise. Space improves your negotiations, hiring decisions, strategic direction, and even conflict resolution. The calmer the leader, the clearer the organization. Now, here we go. How do we create space? You don't need to retreat in the mountains. You need intention. Here are 4 ways to create space immediately. First, pause before responding. 1 breath, and that creates some space. And in that moment, you can assess what's happening rather than panic and react. Second, schedule some thinking time. Protect that time like a meeting. It can be 5 minutes, it can be 10 minutes, it can be a half an hour. I personally usually like to do it first thing in the morning before the hectic day starts. Third, reduce the input. Less noise, less clutter, less social media. And fourth, sit with discomfort. Not every feeling needs to be fixed. The more comfortable you are with silence, the more powerful your thinking becomes. If your mind feels crowded, decisions feel heavy, if creativity feels blocked, the solution may not be more effort, may be more space. Create that space. Protect that space. Lead from that space. Because in a quiet moment, your best thinking lives. And that's what real leadership begins. Thanks for listening to Mind Your Business. And until next time, slow down, create some space, and keep your mindset strong.